So Ohio State's gotten some good news in the transfer portal and with his 2025 roster overall. First and foremost, former Purdue tight end Max Clare is officially signed. He's officially a Buckeye, so he'll be a part of this tight end room next year. And we're here at the Rose Bowl. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. And Stefan, you talked with Will Kazmarek, who has officially announced that he is expecting to be back next season. So as of right now, the expected tight end room is this: Max Clare, Will Kazmarek, Jelani Thurman, Bennett Christian, Nate Roberts, Brody Lennon, and then you've got Maxwell LeBlanc, and I don't know which room Demarion Witten is in right now, but he's supposed to be a tight end at some point, so we'll include him in there, and then we'll also include him in a wide receiver discussion. But the future plan for him is developing him into a tight end. That's your tight end room. Let's evaluate that room, Stefan. Do you think that is, I don't know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P level? I don't know.
I think it's at least a B group, right? Like, Max Clare is a all Big Ten caliber tight end. Like, he is a guy who can come in and start and be, one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten. And behind him, you have a Will Kazmarek who, he's shown that he can catch passes, but he's also a guy that can block better than most tight ends and really fits, along that offensive line. He was talking about how much he works with Donovan Jackson at left tackle. Listen, Donovan Jackson's done an amazing job moving from guard to left tackle. I don't know if he'd be as effective if he didn't have the help of Will Kazmarek right beside him. Like, that is a huge bonus to have a guy like that. So when you're talking about the top two, not many Big Ten or frankly in the country rooms are as good as those top two. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the rest of it, a lot of it is unproven commodities, guys that you expect to take a step up. And talk about some of those young guys, Steven, like there is potential in that room to really build some things and maybe see a third guy emerge and get some snaps along with those top two next year. The interesting piece in this conversation is, where does Jelani Thurman go from here? He is a guy that has all the potential in the world. We've seen him make, big plays this year. He had that catch at Penn State that maybe, was one of the pivotal plays in that game. But when you look at the roster, he's still probably the number 3 guy next year. And what is that, like, how does he evaluate that for himself? Is he a guy that thinks he can be a starter somewhere else or at least have a bigger role somewhere else? That's the decision that he's going to have to make now, because the portal window, if I'm not mistaken, is closed. But for teams that are taking part in the playoff, you have basically from when you win or from when you lose or from when your season ends, you have like a 5-day window that players can decide what they want to do. He's maybe one of those guys that has to make a decision. Do you come back next year and have what I think would probably be a pretty similar role to what he had this year? With those two guys ahead of him, I don't know how much of a bigger role it's going to be in this offense. Or do you go somewhere else? That's a decision that he's going to have to make. And Will Kazmarek deciding to come back, definitely amplifies that a bit.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think the room is, you gave all those letters. I'm going to say P for pretty good. I'm not going to say that they're at an A level. God, Steven's eyes are going to roll out of his head. I think it's hard to evaluate tight ends in this offense. At least it has been for me, because this isn't Iowa. This isn't Penn State. This isn't Notre Dame. This isn't an offense that flows through their tight end. So it's like, how do you evaluate production when there's Jeremiah Smith on your offense, right? How do you evaluate production when it's sometimes only blocking and hey, it's a good day for your tight end if he goes 3 for 35? Like, how do you evaluate that? So I think they're in a pretty good spot right now at the top. We mentioned, with the addition that they bring in, you have Kazmarek, you have some guys at the top you feel comfortable playing. I think the depth is exciting, but there's a famous quote, potential just means you ain't done anything yet. And there's potential there, but we haven't seen it yet. And like the Jelani Thurman, we talked about him in fall camp, like, oh my goodness gracious, who is this guy? Like, this guy's going to be a red zone weapon. And we haven't really seen that this year. And I think part of that is because the receivers are so good. And I think part of that is, you need to see more from Jelani Thurman. Consistency is the thing that everybody wants to bring up with him. So you can kind of leave the freshmen out of it, like Nate Roberts and Brody Lennon. I think Nate Roberts is going to be very, very good at Ohio State. I just don't think it's going to happen in 2025. So the freshmen kind of are what they are. It's just really, really hard to play as a freshman at tight end. So I think when you look at the room as a whole, you feel good about the top, and I think you feel like you've got some options. You just don't know what they are. So it's kind of hard to say, oh, this room is in a great spot when you don't quite know everything you have, especially when there is this player like Jelani Thurman who's in that mix where you're like, wow, we would love to see more out of him. I think the room, like I said, pretty good. They're in a good spot, but I'm not going to say that they're, this tight end room is set. This tight end room is great. This tight end room is in a great spot for the next 5 years, whatever. I'm not there yet, but there's no reason fans should be worried about it or anything like that.
There's a lot of P words. Pretty good, potential, portal. It's just a lot going on there.
Please.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So here's the deal. Regardless of what happens this season, Ryan Day is no longer in a position to be waiting on potential. He is no longer in a position to just this idea of something might happen without seeing results of it. So I love the Max Clare move. Why? Because he's a proven commodity as a receiving threat, and you're going to lose your best receiving threat in G. Scott after this. So that's essentially he's just.
We should also know G. Scott, especially this last month or so, has been very, very good and used in a lot of ways that probably goes unnoticed at times.
Right. So he's it's literally a one-for-one replacement in that situation. But also what you are seeing is, I think Ohio State. We said this about the offensive line. I think about this at every position. Go put a roster together this spring. You don't got to be at 85 until the first day of fall camp. So go put guys on your roster. And then spend the next 15 practices figuring it out. Let them all battle it out. Let them all fight it out. That's at tight end. That's on the offensive line. That's at quarterback if you need to. That's at receiver. It's at everywhere. So that's where I'm at with things. And that's what this type of decision is. You need a proven guy. But also, nothing is a kick in the butt motivator to get you to take that next step than feeling like you might have a guy in front of you who they purposely brought in to do so. So Jelani Thurman's got a decision to make. There's a lot of guys on this team who have a decision to make after the season. And we've gotten to the point where we do kind of talk recklessly about the portal, but that's because the portal is in a reckless place. So you have to talk about this like that. When someone comes in, you got to go, okay, what does that mean for the guy who's already been here? When the guy leaves, okay, what does that mean for the guy who may be up next? Jelani Thurman is just the face of that because he is a former top 100 recruit who is now heading into his third year here. And maybe he didn't take that next step in year 2 that maybe you were expecting him to take. But we'll see, right? We're saying all this now, and we're sitting here at the Rose Bowl. Maybe he comes out in the Rose Bowl and somehow has 4 catches and 4 touchdowns. Who knows what's going to happen on Wednesday? It's going to get weird. Get the text, 614-350-33152. Two-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. Andrew, Stefan, Steven, peace out.